Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a kind of hidden mechanism that fundamentally changes how businesses scale, hit global benchmarks, and most importantly, secure high-value contracts. We're talking about cracking the ISO code. If you're a focused learner who's ever looked at international standards and wondered how you can actually leverage them as a direct, actionable pathway to corporate growth, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to break down all these complexities and give you a really clear understanding of how this entire compliance ecosystem actually works. So let me start by asking you a question. What really stands between a highly capable business and winning a major corporate or government tender? Imagine a scenario where a mid-sized local manufacturer is trying to break into a global supply chain. A lot of times, the reason they miss out isn't because of a lack of talent, and it's certainly not a poor product. No, it's that incredibly confusing, often frustrating hurdle of compliance requirements. You know for a fact your team can deliver the work, but this complex web of administrative red tape literally keeps you locked out of the room. It's a massive pain point for growing businesses everywhere. Okay, let's dive into this and see how we can cut through that noise. We can look at the framework provided by Gvs Advisory. Their whole approach centers around what they call smart compliance solutions. Because, instead of just navigating this dense rulebook completely blind, this method gives you a structured roadmap to navigate the compliance landscape efficiently. The goal here is pretty straightforward. Simplify the operational requirements so a leadership team can actually focus their energy on what they do best, which is running and scaling their business. Now, let's be real. If you've ever looked at the full suite of international management systems, it probably looked like a completely daunting wall of numbers to you. It's a true compliance alphabet soup. You've got 90,001, 14,001, 22,000. It just goes on and on. It can honestly feel like an entirely different language that was specifically designed to keep you confused. But the reality is actually a lot more pragmatic. In this explainer, we're going to decode these numbers so they aren't just random digits, but tangible, powerful tools that shape a company's entire operational structure. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is that when you organize all this chaos into logical categories, it becomes instantly digestible. It's like a giant puzzle. First, we have quality and operations. This bucket holds foundational standards like ISO 901, which essentially just proves your product or service works consistently and meets customer expectations every single time. Then there's safety and environment. A prime example here is ISO 14001, which establishes exactly how a company measures and manages its environmental footprint. And finally, you have sector-specific standards that dial into exact industries. For instance, ISO 13485 ensures stringent safety and quality management specifically for medical devices. Suddenly, by breaking it down like this, it's not some random, intimidating list. It's a highly structured menu of operational excellence. So the crucial point is, knowing the categories and understanding the numbers, that's really only half the process. How often do we see companies fail because they leave standardizations merely on paper, just trapped in a dusty binder somewhere, rather than actually implementing them into their company culture? To make this work, a business absolutely has to transform these theoretical frameworks into tangible action on the ground. We need a clear execution strategy to weave these standards into daily corporate operations so they actually function the way they're intended to. Let's move to the execution phase and see how this builds. The framework tackles this through a real momentum-building three-step journey. Step 1 is the end-to-end gap analysis. This is absolutely critical because it identifies exactly where a business currently stands right now versus where the international standard actually requires them to be. Think of it as a super thorough operational audit. Step 2 is implementation. The gaps have been identified, and now the business actively bridges them by putting the required processes into everyday practice. And finally, step 3 is certification support. This is getting across the finish line, passing those external audits, and securing that official, globally recognized documentation. It's a completely logical progression from an initial assessment straight to a certified finish. Now, you might be wondering, why dedicate the resources to this? Well, the most successful businesses, they don't view ISO standards as just some bureaucratic checklist. Not at all. Instead, they treat them as a strategic key to unlocking high-level corporate growth. Going through this whole process isn't just about satisfying an auditor, it is entirely about making your operations resilient, efficient, and undeniably capable in a really competitive marketplace. And this brilliantly illustrates how the compliance process drives concrete bottom-line benefits. First off, it standardizes and optimizes your entire corporate operations. That means your internal machinery runs with way less friction and a lot less wasted effort. Second, it instantly elevates your service or product quality to global benchmarks. You're no longer just competing locally. You are operating with an international level of quality assurance. And number 3, it officially qualifies your company to win those high-value corporate and government tenders. It gives you the exact credentials you need to sit at the big table, giving procurement officers the confidence they require to actually award you the contract. Which brings us to a really critical question to leave you with today. Is your business currently qualified to win the next high-value tender? If a major game-changing opportunity dropped onto your desk tomorrow morning, would you have the foundational ISO credentials to even submit a qualifying bid? It's definitely a scenario worth thinking about. Because compliance isn't a barrier. When you approach it strategically, it is a massive competitive advantage just waiting to be utilized. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.